Welcome to Movie Friends. We're your hosts, Seth and Michelle. Today we're talking about Singing in the Rain from 1952. Directed and choreographed by Stanley Donen and Gene Kelly. Written by Adolph Green and Betty Comden. Cinematography by Harold Rawson. Composed by Ignacio Brown. Starring Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, Debbie Reynolds, and Gene Hagen. Michelle, how are you?
Wowie zowie. Hey, Seth.
Hey.
What's going on?
Yeah.
So, Seth, should we tour? What do you think?
No, I think that might be the end.
Oh.
Of my singing career.
All right, well,
Not my dancing career, though.
I mean, I did get to witness that. Why don't you explain how this all came to be?
Well, I realized we haven't covered a musical yet. This is the first musical that we're covering, which is very exciting. Sometimes people are surprised to hear this, but I love musicals.
I'm surprised to hear that.
Why?
Because you just don't come off as a musical guy.
Oh, can you hear that thunder?
No.
Okay, listener, you might be able to hear some thunder. There's a massive thunderstorm coming my way, which is very fitting for the movie that we're talking about. Anyway, since this was the first musical, and I've been kind of living in this movie and the songs, I've been listening to the soundtrack nonstop, and I was like, we should sing the intro.
And so we did.
And my son wrote the piano part.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
My goodness.
I gave him a tune. And he came back like 5 minutes later with the piano part. Wow. He's like Cosmo. He's like a little Cosmo.
It's amazing. Is
from
he
this
like
movie.
Parkouring off the walls and stuff?
He might.
He might. You could challenge him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's very exciting.
It is very exciting.
We're talking about Singing in the Rain from 1952.
Yep.
Normally, this is the part of the show where we would go through emails, but we have so many emails this week that we're actually going to do those in a separate YouTube video. And if you guys haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, you totally should. There's a lot of like extra stuff on there. It's not just us talking. Like we do stuff.
Well, it is just us talking, though.
No, I know.
It's not about movies.
Do you realize that we do like specific content for all of the platforms that we're on?
It's exhausting.
We're not just like posting the same thing over and over again. So if you're not following us on Instagram and Twitter, and if you're not subscribed on YouTube, you're not getting the full Seth and Michelle experience, which maybe you don't even want.
No,
maybe that's why you're not.
They're just not aware of it, I think.
It's true. It's possible.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you want to hear the emails from this week, head on over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/moviefriendspodcast. What we do have, though, is we have a voice memo from the one, the only Felicia.
Yeah.
Or, as we lovingly refer to her as, Cinnamon Noodle. This is our third friend request film, and this one was submitted by Felicia. And so let's go to her voicemail to hear why she picked it.
Hey, movie friends. I'm so very excited that you're going to be talking about Singing in the Rain. This film means the absolute world to me. I first saw it when I was in film school, and it truly shaped the way I viewed cinema from there on out. The reason why I picked this one is because I honestly can't imagine anyone not having a great time with it or not enjoying it. And how could you not fall in love with Gene Hagen, Debbie Reynolds, Donald O'Connor, and most of all, Gene Kelly? Like, what a man. To quote, or I should say paraphrase, Al Pacino in a little film called Heat, he's got a great ass. In all seriousness, though, I think there's so much craft and talent put into this film, and I really, really hope you enjoy.
Wow. Thanks, Felicia.
Wow. Cinnamon Noodle.
You guys have been hearing about her. We've been reading her tweets.
I know.
For months now, and now you actually get to hear her voice. And stay tuned. Felicia is actually launching her own podcast.
What's it called, Seth?
It's called Seeing Faces in Movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be on an episode talking about my favorite, maybe, director, one of my favorite directors, Agnes Varda, We did Cleo from
yes.
5 to 7 here on this show. So I'm very excited. But anyway, thank you, Felicia. And I don't want to say I didn't notice Gene Kelly's rear end. It was not my main focus in this film.
I mean, I didn't mind it.
You weren't bothered?
No. I
Okay.
allowed it.
Okay. So, how do you feel about this movie? What did you think?
It's lovely. It's delightful. How can you not enjoy this movie? That's what I want to know. And you know what's really funny about this movie and this whole experience is last week we talked about it when you pulled it out of your little ketchup container. And we both were like, wow, we haven't seen this movie in like 10 years.
Yes.
And then I was like, hold up. I don't think I've seen this movie. I've just been on the great movie ride at Disney World.
Yes.
But then this is one of those movies that you're so aware of the music and pop culture references. It's like you've seen the movie without seeing the movie, but you've seen the movie. And so that was my whole experience watching it. I'm like, wait, have I seen this? I know this scene. Wait, I don't think I
Right.
have. Maybe it's been a while. So it's actually been 10 years since I've been on the great movie ride.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because in the great movie ride, which sadly closed, is a scene, the Singing in the Rain scene. Yeah.
So you had mentioned that to me, I think, when you started watching the movie.
Yes.
Because you were like, yeah, I saw this. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really funny. And I was like, what a Michelle thing. Like,
What a Michelle
I thought
thing.
that I saw this movie, but it was actually like a theme park ride. But in doing my research for the movie, I listened to a few different podcasts. And 2 different shows said the exact same thing that you said, that they thought that they had seen this movie, but they were just thinking about the great movie ride from Disney.
It's the best ride. I mean,
Apparently, it has
well-
quite an effect on you.
it has. I don't know if everybody would agree with this, and I would love for our listeners to write in about this. Like, seriously, send me an email. I have actually been on a great movie ride deep dive. I've watched many YouTube videos in bed reliving the ride. I watched the whole history of how it got made.
Wow.
Yeah, and then it got me thinking about my second favorite attraction is the Carousel of Progress, which nobody likes the Carousel of Progress in Disney, but I love the Carousel of Progress. And then another self-reflection, which we will stop after I say this, is I don't like dolls and I don't like robots, but put it together in a Disney animatronic, I am into it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
The Carousel of Progress sounds
Yes.
like the most boring attraction. I'm sure it's not. Like, what is that? I've
Well,
never even
it
heard of
follows the American family over 4 generations. It starts at the turn of the century, and it originally was shown at the World's Fair. And then it was brought to Disney in 1975. And essentially, it's a 22-minute show with a rotating, it goes into the different, like starts in the 1900s and then goes to 1920, and it shows technology through a family of 4.
that. Interesting. Okay.
And I love it. And here's why you love it. 1, it's 22 minutes. 2, you're sitting down. 3, you're in the AC. So imagine, right. And everybody can join. And it's the same thing with the Great Movie Ride. But sadly, that is closed, the Great Movie Ride. I can't believe
Rest
it.
in peace.
I'm
Great
so,
movie ride.
so sad over that. And now, you know, Hollywood Studios at Disney is all like, ooh, Star Wars, which I'm sure is great. But whatever. Don't get rid of that ride.
I've never been to any of the Disneys, so I'll take your word for it.
Seth, you would have loved
Don't-
the Great Movie Ride.
it's-
You would have loved the Great Movie
I
Ride,
probably
though.
would. Do you know any of the other movies on it?
Yeah, of course. There was Mary Poppins. There was Fantasia, Wizard of Oz, Alien. There was a musical. They start with a musical from
Alien?
Yeah, there was a musical from the 1930s.
It's quite the transition.
Yeah, and then we go through like the westerns.
Was it spooky?
The
alien
ride?
part?
Oh, the alien part was because the alien like comes out and then
Yeah,
it comes
that's
down
scary.
from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It is just, I'm down a real nostalgia hole this week.
That's okay. Hey, send us an email if you have also been on the Great Movie Ride.
Yeah. And I'll send you YouTube videos. You could relive it. I'm just probably going to watch it again because I love it so much.
Okay. So anyway, back to Singing in the Rain.
Yes.
I already said how I feel about musicals. How do you feel about musicals?
I
Like,
love
just as a whole?
musicals. I love musicals, but I don't like when teen dramas have a musical episode because it's unnecessary. Like, we get you can sing and dance, we don't need it.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about Glee then?
Oh, I loved Glee
Okay.
because it wasn't just a one-off.
Yeah,
type
it was
deal.
all the time.
Yeah.
Glee would have done an episode where there was no musical numbers, and that would have been the gimmick.
Correct.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay. So really quick note before we really start discussing the movie. If you're listening to this for the first time, or this is like one of your first episodes, there are so many behind the scene facts about this movie that Michelle and I could just sit here and repeat the same facts. But you can find those like in a million different places. Obviously, we're going to talk about some of those things, but it's not really what we're going to do. So if you're listening to this and we don't mention like the one thing, you're like, how could you not mention this? We don't care.
Well, it's also like, oh, we already know that, right?
Right.
Like, why
Yeah,
repeat
it's
it?
Google Singing in the Rain behind the scenes. You'll find
Yeah.
10 different lists that all say the same exact stuff.
Exactly.
So just a really quick note. I haven't seen this movie since I was probably like 15. So, close to 20 years. And I really disliked it the first time that I saw it. I felt like the plot was like so disjointed, which it turns out it is, because it's not. This is what's called like a jukebox musical. And so the story is built around the songs. The songs were written and had been used before. Singing in the Rain had been used 20 plus years prior to this movie coming out. I also really didn't like how it looked. Like the colors all just.
You don't like
seemed very strange to me.
Technicolor saturated?
Now I like Technicolor.
So
but back in the
good.
day, I don't know if I've ever said this on the main show. So hold on to your hats, folks.
Ooh, I'm in my seat!
When I was younger, I used to say, and I really felt this way, that I did not like movies made before like 1978, 1977. And if I watched movies from that time, it really didn't connect with me, which is strange to me now because the majority of the films that I enjoy are like prior to that time.
Yeah.
So I just want to say we can all grow. We can all change.
You were a kid.
I mean, I was firm in that though. Like I would tell that to people. It's like, oh, have you seen Ben-Hur? I'd be like, no, I don't watch movies before 1978.
I don't know. You were a kid. I can't really judge you too much for that.
No, I agree. But yeah, so I had a major bias against Singing in the Rain. Watching it this time around, I was so taken with the physicality of Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor. Gene Kelly is great, of course, and I did my best to watch various other clips of movies that he was in. I didn't have time to, go through everything, all of his movies. But he's great. He's got a great personality. He's very funny in this movie. And Donald O'Connor he's like on fire in this movie. Everything that he says is so funny, even though they're like the lamest dad jokes that you've ever heard. Like towards the beginning, when Don is getting like mobbed by a group of people and he yells over to Cosmo, "Hey, call me a cab." And Cosmo's like, "Hey, sure, you're a cab. Hey."
It was so good. It was so
Right.
good.
It's such a bad, dumb joke, but it
No.
works.
Perfect.
It works great. Yes. That's it. I feel like Cosmo is such a great example of writing. You want good writing, right? But a good performer can take anything and turn it into magic. And I feel like that is him. On my rewatches of this, I was so drawn to him in this movie, and like make him laugh. I know that the movie is called Singing in the Rain, and there are great dance sequences with Gene Kelly. To me, Make 'em Laugh is like far and above the best number in this movie. I don't know how you feel.
I agree. Cosmo was my favorite character. Well,
Yeah.
I liked Lena too. But
We'll come back to Lena.
yeah, we'll come back to her. But Cosmo to me stood out more. And I also felt like through all the musical numbers, Singing in the Rain is not my favorite one.
Yeah. Musically,
get,
it's
like-
not my favorite. I like the dancing.
Sure.
and,
No,
you know,
right. you take that away, and the technical
Yeah.
part of it, and the use of
Yeah.
the water, and he was sick,
Yeah.
and blah 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 blah.
And the camera
Sure, the
in that
camera.
sequence is
Yeah.
unreal. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not my personal favorite. I thought Make 'Em Laugh was just like, I felt like I took drugs. I felt like it was like on
Yes.
steroids. I was like, oh,
Yes.
whoa, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
That was my favorite.
So like I had said, none of these songs were like written for this musical except for Make 'Em Laugh, which was 100% lifted from Be a Clown, Cole Porter. If you listen to the two, it's not even close. And they've admitted, like, we just kind of lifted it. We had to come up with something quickly. Don't even care, because when you steal something and make it into something this amazing and iconic, whatever, man. Hey, you deserve to steal it, you know?
Yeah.
So during filming, they realized, like, oh, we've got Donen O'Connor. He doesn't have, like, his own song. All the other characters, they get their own songs. And so they whip this up, and he had grown up doing vaudeville, right? And the whole flipping thing was something that he would do as a young person. At this point in his life, he's smoking like 4 packs of cigarettes a day. And so this is one of the things, a lot of the stuff I tried to corroborate from like different sources.
Yeah.
And you get like versions of the same story. And so a lot of the stuff I think that we have to take with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? But he was so exhausted that he like went to the hospital for like a few days to like recuperate from doing this routine. He also had like severe rug burns from skidding across the floor. And at the end of the number, he just collapses. And he had said, he was like, the number was so big, I was like, the only thing I can do at the end to top it is like kill myself.
Right.
And so when he collapses at the end of it, I feel like, I almost feel like it's partially real. Like, how could you do anything other than just like fall down at that point? Like the energy that he's putting out it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
In that short period of time. Did you watch the Joseph Gordon-Levitt version of it?
Oh, yeah. And I've seen
Yeah.
that before. You sent that to me. He did great job.
He did great, but you can see how doing it live, you can hear how out of breath he is. He's like really pushing those words out by the end of it.
Yeah.
So Lena.
My goodness.
Tell me about
gracious.
Lena.
I love her so much. And I love the idea, or just the fact, that we don't hear her speak, right? And this whole time you're like, oh, the men are speaking for her.
Yeah.
Why are they speaking for her? It's just the time, right? It's the 20s. And then when we hear her speak, I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed. Absolutely obsessed with everything that is going on here.
I think one of the reasons why people enjoy this movie is because while our characters have little inconveniences to kind of get over throughout the story, the full-on villain, real trouble doesn't come until 85% of the way through the movie. Lena is self-absorbed. She doesn't like Kathy, which we really, as the audience, we really like Kathy. And so she is clearly antagonistic out of the whole bunch. But so much of the movie is just about like the creation of movies and the delight in like watching people dance and the technicolor brilliance of the whole thing, that I think your hackles, as we say, don't really go up until that scene where Lena comes into RF's office at the end and she's like, I'm gonna sue the whole company. That's my best Lena.
We probably could have done without it, but thank you for your attempt.
Can you do a Lena, do you think?
I don't think so. Let's see. No.
I can't stand him.
They're dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has that great line. Like, what kind of...
They're dopes, right?
Yeah,
With the
something like,
wigs?
what kind of dope would wear this wig? Like, everyone used to wear them. Well, then they're all dopes.
at one point she just says, "Gee, this is dumb." I was like, "My girl." But you know what? Her going into RF's office, I was like, "Get what you want. Stand up for yourself.
Sure.
Work the system because the system's been working over you." So
Yeah. And when he's looking over her contract, she's spitting all of it out. And so this whole movie, you've thought that she's like dumb, and nope. She's not dumb.
She's not
just
dumb.
the way that she is. Look, I don't like Lena in the sense of like she's amazing and I want the Lena movie, but as far as like a semi-villain, she's great. I really enjoy her. Jean Hagen plays her so well. For the longest time, I was like, is this her real voice?
She sounds like Betty Boop.
Yeah. Hagen puts on this voice for her. And in the scenes where it's switching between her real voice and what you think is Kathy's voice being dubbed in, that's also Jean Hagen. And it's like night and day. It's such a great divide between the two performances. Yeah. And for her to do it without changing how her face is moving. You know what I mean? Like when you get two sides of a coin from the same actor in the same movie, normally they'll look different or they'll like hunch or they'll stand different. They'll change the way their face moves. This is all the same. It's just her voice that's changing. It's really, really impressive. Yeah. I really, really like that.
Yeah.
And so the flip side of Lena is Kathy. Mm-hmm. And Kathy, when we meet her, she's like not impressed with Don Lockwood. She pretends that she hasn't seen any of his movies and that silent acting isn't really acting. And you kind of get this sense that she's wanting to be where Lena is, but she's like stuck at like the bottom run of Hollywood entertainment, which is popping out of cakes at parties.
I know, for a job. But also, she's such a relatable character. She's one of us.
Yes, exactly. Yep,
Yeah.
Yep. And even Don and Cosmo in the opening, they're pretending that they're something that they're not. When they're giving the interview, oh, I went to the nicest schools and I studied here and I did this and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, they're just like bumming around.
Yeah.
Doing goofy vaudeville acts. That first number, Fit as a Fiddle, I don't love that song, but the outfits.
The gingham.
And what they're. Yeah.
It was a moment. And just. I couldn't tell you how the song goes, but I was so fixated on their legs and the violins because they're so in sync, and you're just you can't stop, and you just I don't know. Throughout this movie, the whole time I was just like screaming, like the talent, how that was me like the whole time.
Yeah,
the whole time. But I loved that number. I don't remember the song at all, but I enjoyed the outfits and violin.
Fit as a fiddle and ready for love.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Seth.
I like in that when they're playing and then their fiddles become yo-yos for half a second.
Yes, like what? That's so cool.
And like, we'll just do it once and then moving on.
That's
Who
it.
cares? Yeah. Absolutely love that. So what did you think about Kathy as like the love interest, as like the hero kind of, she's like the magic that makes the whole thing work.
Yeah, she's
incredible. Did you buy it?
I did. She's incredibly charming. Mm-hmm. It was interesting to learn more about Debbie Reynolds in the sense of like, again, we said we're not going to go too far into it, but just how much pressure she felt on set.
Yes.
Also that she couldn't sing or dance.
Yes.
So she was dubbed. And then that whole 10-minute Broadway meta scene that happens, they had to get Sid Charisse because Debbie Reynolds can't dance and keep up. So I was like, okay. But I love Debbie Reynolds anyway.
How strange is it that last week we're talking about When Harry Met Sally and talking about Carrie Fisher. And now this week we're doing Singing in the Rain, talking about Debbie Reynolds, her mom.
Yeah.
Like, that's very strange.
It's very strange.
Yeah, I like Kathy. I don't understand, like, Don's instant, like, magnetic pull towards her.
Because she doesn't want him. She puts up a fight. She's not falling to his feet. He's pretty disgusting in the car.
Yeah.
He's like
Oh,
putting
yeah.
moves on her. Like, he's gross,
Yeah.
you know? And I was like, oh, I'm writing you off, Don Lockwood. Like, as soon as that moment came, I was like, you're disgusting. And then we came back and he grew on me again. But
Quick question.
yeah,
Have you seen Mad Men?
of course.
Okay. Do you think that the inspiration for the name Don could have come from this Don? Because he's also a Don who lies about where he's from.
It's funny you say that because in my notes, I wrote, could John Hamm lay Gene Kelly in a biopic?
Ooh.
They look so
wow.
similar, but I don't think John Hamm could obviously dance like Gene Kelly, but
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, maybe.
you know, you
He
could
might be able to pull it
CGI
off.
some tapping feet or what have
He's
you.
much older than Gene Kelly
know.
was here. Gene Kelly's
I know.
39 here.
Well, not for Singing in the Rain, but just he looked so much like him to
Yeah.
me. Or maybe he just
Yeah.
looked more like Don Draper. But yeah, maybe.
Gene Kelly he's such a phenomenal dancer and like presence in this movie. But
Yeah.
I started laughing because I was like, am I really about to comment on Gene Kelly's dancing? Just thinking about Donald O'Connor and Gene Kelly in this movie. Gene Kelly's face is always, it's like set in one mode. Like it's like smiling and like you can see his teeth from 6 miles away.
Dancer mode.
Where Donald O'Connor is much more fluid in his face and he's much more expressive, where it feels like Gene is just like locked in. And yeah, the production of this movie was very intense rehearsals. Gene Kelly is directing and doing the choreography for this movie. He is demanding perfection from everybody, and I think he got it. I would never guess that Debbie Reynolds did not know how to dance. Never.
Same.
Never, ever, ever. My second favorite number in this movie is Good Morning.
Yeah. Love that.
I think it's some of the best dancing because we have a few numbers where 2 people are dancing, right? The Moses song, Fit as a Fiddle. But now there are 3 people dancing in sync with each other, moving up and down stairs. Like the long takes in this movie are just, you're like, okay, cut, like please cut, rest,
Right.
Stop. Stop.
I'm holding my breath, please.
I've
I need to
seen
take
enough.
a breath. Yeah.
Yeah. And so her dancing in that, yeah, if I didn't know that, I never would have thought, oh, she's, barely keeping up with them. She's phenomenal. She's in the center a lot as they're dancing. And she looks great. It looks great. And it all works so well together.
Yeah.
That's a song that I would sing, even though I didn't really like the song, anytime like in my life when someone's like, good morning, that's what goes through my head.
It's been stuck in my head. I've been singing it every morning to my cats.
Yes.
And then I was singing it to Aunt and yeah.
I was literally going to ask you, are you singing good morning to your cats yet?
Yeah, of course. But you know what's even more strange is the Moses supposes his toes are roses.
Mm-hmm.
That was a core memory unlocked. My dad used to say that to us all the time.
Wow.
All the time. So I'm watching, I was like, ooh, and it like whoosh, brought me
Right.
back. And so I texted
Right.
my mom and my sister and I was like, did Dad love Singing in the Rain? And my mom's like, yes, that was one of his favorite movies. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know this
okay.
was from this movie.
Right.
He used to say
Okay.
it all the time, just to
That's
say it.
awesome. And
Yeah.
what would you like laugh or were you like,
Yeah.
Dad, get out of here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were younger, but he'd always be like, Moses supposes his toes are roses. I was like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love tongue twisters. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you feel about tongue twisters.
I mean, I wish I was better at them.
Me too.
You're pretty
They're
good.
like-
You've been sending them through audios as of late.
Yeah.
Which is
I can't remember
strange.
the one that I sent you. Mitch.
Yeah, it was something with, I don't know.
Mitch.
Right.
Switch.
Now I want a
ditch.
chip witch.
Chipwich is great. Oh man,
so
I love. There are 3 frozen items that I love.
I want you to make them in a
Chipwich?
rhyme right now.
Oh, a rhyme? Okay.
Yeah, tongue twisters. Make your 3 favorite frozen treats into a tongue twister. And go. And speak it as Gene Hagen.
Okay. Seth Sneaks Snickers. I don't know if I can do this off the top of my head. Okay. What rhymes with taco?
Chaco. Laco. Faco. Mako. I don't know.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Seth sneaks Snickers with...
As Gene Hagen.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, as Lena. I'm sorry, not as Gene Hagen. As
Right.
Lena.
Seth? Seth sneaks Snickers with which chip which sitch ditch his Choco Taco Motto Lotto.
Wow. I don't really know what you said, but
Well, my three favorite are ice cream Snickers, which if you've never had are awesome.
so good. Yeah.
Chipwich and Choco Taco.
Good choices.
Yeah.
That was very
Thank you.
good, Seth. That was
Thank you
very, very
much.
good.
Thanks. Anyway, I like real tongue twisters because it's like a puzzle. It's like a physical puzzle. You know what I mean? You have to figure out like where to put the syllables and how to pronounce certain things. And even when you figure it out, it's hard to do. Love tongue twisters so much. This song, it plays into this trope in movies, which is like get the smart guy kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The assault that they put this man under for doing nothing is insane. He's just a diction coach, right? And he's cool. Like, he's like doing the rhymes with him, and they're like, yeah. Cosmo's behind his back making fun of him. And it's like, okay, well, Cosmo, you're funny. I get it. But then they start dancing throughout his whole office. Okay, whatever. Then they're dancing on his desk.
It's a musical.
Then they grab him and start like throwing all this stuff on him. And I'm like, okay, where's this going? Then Cosmo grabs his garbage cans and just starts throwing them through the air. And I'm like, what is this? Why? Like, why are they picking on the nerdy guy?
Because they can. And it's a musical, so anything goes. It's kind of like
Right.
what we were discussing about in Studio Ghibli movies where you just accept it.
Right.
Okay.
Musicals always have the moment where it switches from talking to singing. And what happens in that singing, it has an effect on the story, but like how it's done, like doesn't. A song
Right.
never ends and people are like, why did you just start singing? Right. But in Singing in the Rain, it feels like that, but like to like the highest degree possible. Even to the point where a lot of the times it feels like Gene Kelly is performing to an audience that's like 20 feet in front of him, as if he is like on stage live in a theater and he is dancing to the audience. In a lot of musicals, they're dancing and looking at each other and they're singing to each other. In Singing in the Rain, they are singing to the audience. And again, the vibrancy with which they perform, and even like where they are in terms of like the foreground of the shot, it feels like it's happening live in front of you. And Moses Supposes is probably one of the better examples of that. Fit as a
Yeah.
Fiddle, of course, because
Right.
they are literally on a stage. But
Right.
in Moses Supposes, it's like you're sitting there and they're looking, pretty
Yeah.
much right at the camera, like, hey, smiling, like, do you see this? This is crazy. Like, check this out. Look at this, what we're gonna do. You know what I mean? And so it's cool. I like that.
Well, it's so meta, right? Because it's like actors, we see them on a sound stage and then they decide they're going to make a musical and then there's a musical inside the musical,
Right.
and also a film inside a film.
Right.
Yeah,
And you have somebody who has to be dubbed.
correct.
At one point, when they decide to turn it into the Dancing Cavalier, the movie, they're talking about, well, we'll just have you dance around Lena, and then you teach her how to take a bow. And that's basically Gene Kelly's feelings about Debbie Reynolds. The whole end sequence where they do the Broadway melody medley thing. And then when that ends and the studio executive is just like, I don't get it. And he's like, don't worry, it'll make sense on the screen, which is literally what just happened.
Right.
You're like, I don't get what just like what this has
Right.
nothing to do with anything. Sid Charisse has not been in this movie.
Nope.
Like,
Nope.
who was that guy? And so it is very meta. And this movie falls into the category of movies about movies.
Yeah.
And I've said before, especially in terms of like the Oscars, Hollywood loves Hollywood. Filmmakers love film and they love making movies about film. It's something that they can relate to, the struggle of a performer, the struggle of a production. Singing in the Rain does this idea better than a lot of other movies about movies because there's almost no cynicism in their critique of Hollywood and of movie making. They're making fun of certain things, but it's all with like a smile.
Yeah.
Obviously, Singing in the Rain is very influential.
Mm-hmm.
There's a modern director right now, Damien Chazelle. He made Whiplash. He made La La Land. He made Babylon last year.
Mm-hmm.
2 of his movies are literally Singing in the Rain, just in like 2 different veins, La La Land and Babylon. Babylon is like a really extreme takedown of old Hollywood around the same exact time as Singing in the Rain. Brad Pitt plays an actor who is there on the set for the original movie that used Singing in the Rain when it was just like a stage full of like famous actors and they're singing it. It's about the transition from silent movies to talkies. The scene where they're miking up Lena multiple different ways, that's recreated with Margot Robbie, down to like the screaming director. But a lot of those movies feel more like a cynical takedown than an optimistic, like joyful look at like, this is how things actually are, but they're still great.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just the overall tone of this movie, so it wouldn't be dark anyway.
Right, and the tone is Singing in the Rain, right? Like,
right.
That phrase and that song is just so like ingrained in our brain that we don't like stop to think about.
Yeah.
The rain sucks and no one is
like
happy and dancing
But when you're in love, you can be out in the rain. Of course.
You can.
Using rain as a vehicle is so interesting to see throughout television and movies and how it becomes such a pivotal part through stories and how it's like the rain is our thing or the rain is seen as romantic. It's interesting because like I personally like never want to be out in the rain. So.
Never.
Not my thing.
No.
But to each their own.
Truman Show. The rain is like literally like, well, the rain and the water. It's like the thing that transports him down like levels of understanding of his own world.
Yeah.
So because this is commenting on like the history of movies, right? Don starts out as a stuntman. And there's a stunt in this movie that I have tried to like figure out how they did or like find any information on it, and I can't find anything. In the beginning, there's a montage where Don is doing different stunts, right? In one, he like runs into a house and then it blows up.
Right.
He gets punched and he gets thrown over the bar. One of them is he gets on a motorcycle. Mm-hmm. We cut, so I believe this is not Gene Kelly. When it cuts, I'm led to believe that this is no longer Gene Kelly on this motorcycle, right? But it drives straight off of a cliff, down into the water. One take. And the person who's on the motorcycle goes down into the water with the motorcycle. How did they do that without getting hurt? How did they
do this? Yeah, I know.
And I rewound it several times, and I'm trying to see, like, was that a dummy? But no, the body shape totally changes from being on it. I don't think you could balance a motorcycle without having a driver. No idea how they did it. If anyone has any... It was like the most amazing shot in this movie to me, and it's like half a second, and then it's just like, moving on.
Right, but like there's so many scenes in this movie where I'm like, how did you do this?
Yeah.
And then you take into account it's like the 1950s. Like now, not to say that, and I'm not speaking on behalf of any movie people.
Sure.
But I'm less impressed with a lot of stunt scenes today
Yeah.
than I am back then. Because I'm like, how did you do it? How did you do it? Today, I'm like, oh, was it CGI? You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of different ways to do things now. Back then, when you see it, you're like, oh, that really happened, you know?
The fact that the Singing in the Rain part, they covered the part of the set with a tarp to make it dark. That to me, like in closing
Right.
that street, and then to produce the water,
Right.
and it took multiple days. Yeah, I'm impressed.
Right. Yeah, it's very, very impressive. One little nugget that gets thrown around about this movie a lot, and I had actually sent to you because I just believed that it was real,
Yeah.
was that they used milk in the water to make it appear better on the screen. And I found that several places. And then I found an interview with the director, with like the Directors Guild of America, where he's breaking that scene down, like literally shot by shot. You know, whenever the camera cuts, he's explaining this is how we did X, Y, and Z. He debunked that. He was like, people have said that we put milk in the water. He's like, we didn't put milk in the water. We just put our lights here and we put our lights here, and it was very hard to do, but we did it. And
Yeah.
yeah, they would have to stop filming every day because as it got closer to nighttime, people were like watering their lawns, and all of their water pressure would just like drop down to
Yeah.
nothing. So they'd have to like take a break and then
Yeah.
come back and film it. During this scene, you know, it's been said that Gene Kelly had like a fever of 103. That's another thing that's like really hard to confirm. Gene Kelly said that he had a cold and that he was worried all of the water was going to like give him pneumonia. But in terms of like factual recorded history, 103-degree fever, you kind of can't find that.
It was probably like 102.
Right, exactly. Something very manageable.
You know. Yeah. Can we talk about the scene where we finally see it become a talkie? And the voice is so out of sync.
Yes, I love that so much.
This was so funny. And the
Yeah.
fact that we got like a slow-mo of no.
Yes. Yeah.
I lost it. I was laughing so hard. And also just seeing the director and the frustration of miking Lena and the part where she's like touching her pearls. And they're like, is
Yes.
that a thunderstorm? Yeah. But like, how relatable as a podcaster today.
I literally wrote down in my notes, like, I bet Michelle watched this and was like, yep, that's exactly what it's like.
That's exactly what it's like. It is so hard to catch sound and then you hear something.
Yeah.
I loved it so much.
And it feels like any small change that you make, it's suddenly everything is now out of whack. Like,
Yeah.
now we've
Yeah.
been doing this enough to where I pretty much just plug my laptop in and, I double check things. But
You know.
when you have like a different guest on, now that throws in a whole new set of problems. I love Conan O'Brien's podcast, and I feel like every like third episode they talk about how much trouble they have just setting up the stuff to like make it
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
It's like oddly complicated when it really shouldn't be. Yeah, I loved that scene. And I felt like it lasted just long enough. Like, first she's not talking into it, and then she's talking, but she's turning her head like this, and so you're hearing every other word. And then she's got it on her shoulder, but she's kind of doing the same. Like, they did it
Right.
just enough times where it didn't, like, wear out the joke.
I agree. It was
Yeah.
done very well.
And then when they're standing outside the theater and everyone's leaving, and they're like, I never want to see Lamont and Lockwood again. This is the worst movie ever. Give me the jazz singer, all that stuff.
So good.
And Lena's there, and she's like, well, I liked it. Yeah, at one point she says to Don, she's like, you hear that? Nice and loud.
Oh my God.
It's
So good.
it's really great.
Yeah.
So it's after that like Don starts spiraling, because in the beginning of the movie, Kathy had said like silent acting is not acting. That's like a real thing, by the way. A lot of stars had a hard time transitioning because it's totally different. When they're recording the dialogue, Don just is like, I don't like these lines. Can I just say whatever? Because in silent movies, you didn't have to say the exact thing. And a lot of times when you're watching a silent film, they'll be going, blah, 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 and then, what actually comes up. Because they could write the dialogue afterwards. They had time to change what was said,
Yeah. I've always wanted to make a silent film. I've only made one, a very short one with my cat and a green screen. And I had him wear like a little hat. We don't have text over it, but it's...
Do you have it?
Of course I have it. I have all my cat videos.
Oh my gosh, you got to post this in the Discord.
I know, I will. But we should make a silent movie.
Sure.
We should do that as a YouTube video.
Sure. I'll do that. We could do a silent movie where it's us trying to record over Zoom, but like our mics aren't working or something.
Yeah.
And then a ghost comes out, or like a ghost doll comes out.
I don't know. It doesn't have to be a doll. But anyway, yes. I can imagine being a silent actor and then having to make a talkie and being like, wait a minute, I know how to emote with my face and reactions. But
and also just on set, you're being directed and the director's just yelling at you and people are walking around talking and it, the whole crew can be making a set right next to exactly. And so the whole thing, it becomes like a whole different animal. I've helped out with 2 short films before. And one of the hardest parts about being on set is just those long moments where it's like, okay, everybody be quiet. And you're just sitting there. You can't move. You can't do anything. You can't talk. And you're just like, wowie zowie. Okay, I'm here. And it's been 12 hours and I'm still here. And
Don't I know that? Been there.
Yeah.
A couple of times.
In the beginning, Kathy says to Don, like, you're not good, it's not real acting. You're not acting on stage. You don't have lines, whatever. And so throughout the movie, he's really questioning, like, am I a good actor? Am I not a good actor? So when everybody laughs at him, he's like, yeah, I'm not. Like, clearly my career is over because I don't have the goods. And so Cosmo and Kathy convince him, like, no, you do have the goods. You just need to use your actual talents that you got through vaudeville and everything that you haven't used since then, which is dancing and singing. And they pitch it to RF. I love him, by the way. So often in movies, like the studio executive or the CEO, they're always like a jerk, and this dude is like so funny. And he's just like a nice older guy,
He's just trying to get it done.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and it's not about him, so
they pitch the movie to, go for it. There's the great line where he's like, Cosmo, remind me to give you a raise. Cosmo immediately turns around, hey, RF, give me a raise.
Yes.
The setup for this movie just sounds insane. Like, they're like, oh, it'll be about somebody who's backstage and he gets hit in the head with a sandbag and we'll mix all this different stuff together. And you're like, that sounds like a horrible movie. And then you're watching it and you're like, wait a minute. Is this just a recreation of the literal pitch for Singing in the Rain? Like, hey, here's how we'll include Good Morning, and here's how we'll include, Singing in the Rain, and here's how we'll include all these different songs, and it'll be about this, and it'll be great, and it'll be about showbiz. And they're like, let's make it.
Pretty much.
It really felt like so meta to Hollywood, and then even meta to just the movie itself. The Broadway melody part, how did you feel about it?
I mean, it's beautiful to watch because of the use of the color, right? And everything's so saturated and the dance moves. I mean, that green dress and the smoke coming out of her nose. The
smoking in the face.
I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's intense.
It's 10 minutes, so.
It's 10, yes.
I
feel like.
Much respect, but I'm good.
Yeah. I feel like a bozo saying it's my least favorite part of the movie because it's not. You know what I mean? But it is like so out of place. And I don't know if there's a person alive who can't see a version of this movie without that part. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It
Yeah.
really is just like a showcase. At this point, Donald O'Connor was already not there, which is why he's not in this number. And Debbie Reynolds couldn't do the different dance styles, right, throughout the sequence. And so she's not in it. And so it really just becomes a showcase for Gene Kelly. It's a microcosm of someone coming into town, having passion, and then getting like beaten down. And in the very end, like another him shows up, and it just shows that like the cycle continues over and over and over again. It's good. I mean, it's amazing. It's great.
Right.
The club scene with the dude with the worst fake scar I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh. Uh-huh. Yep.
But is it bad because it's supposed to be a show?
I think so.
Maybe.
That's how I took
Flipping
it.
the coin. Yeah, everything's
Yeah.
exaggerated in this sequence, right?
Yeah.
More so than the rest of the movie. But yes, the green dress, amazing. Did you see, it's a blink and you miss it. Did you see the jump cut?
The jump cut.
There's a segment of that dance that was cut because it was too salacious.
Oh, but I've heard about because she was just like naturally sexy. You're talking
Well,
about
they-
that? Like
they
how
did a
Catrice
dan-
is just like naturally sexy and they had to like really tone it down?
They did a move where either she wrapped her legs around him or he
Yeah.
wrapped her. And so they cut it. And so when you're watching, and it really, I mean, it's a cut. So I'm
Yeah.
not surprised if everybody hasn't seen it before. In fact, when I was watching it with Jean Marie, who grew up watching this, we're watching it and the jump cut happens and she's like, what was that? Did they edit this version? And she's like looking, she's like, no, this has never been here before. I've seen this movie a bunch of times, and it turns out that is the version that was played like in theaters. They had to cut
Wow.
it for like standards, I guess. I think the Catholic Church like complained or something. Don't quote me on that because I didn't verify it. But
Yeah.
it's a very like potent, vibrant, intense scene. Combine that with the scene at the Purple Stairs with the long flowing. I mean, is that like the
gosh.
longest scarf that a human has ever worn?
And just the height that we
Yes.
get it to.
It's crazy. They did that using all fans.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, do they have this thing on strings?
I thought that too.
You know what I like? Are they like waving it somehow?
Are we
in the back?
manipulating it? How are we
Right.
manipulating it?
Right. But it's all wind. But when you think about like dancing and like running and you have these fans blowing straight at you, that thing, I mean, it's totally sheer, so I'm sure it doesn't weigh a lot. But like just flapping in the wind behind you, it's got to be super heavy.
Yeah.
At one point, Gene Kelly is like wrapped up in it, and then it just like unwraps around him perfectly. I'm sure it took a lot of takes to get it that perfectly, but it's the type of thing where you watch it and you're like, I can't believe that just happened. Like it's so small. Like it's just like it's like a scarf. Who cares? But that is movie magic to me. That whole scene, that them at the Purple Stairs, and then also you're like, is this a painting behind them? Like how far does this go? And as far as you can see, it's just that big. It's amazing. It's really great production design. The production design throughout this whole movie, really great. All the locations, really, really great. Costume designs, everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we already talked a little bit about Lena, standing up for herself. Something that's happening right now, the Writers Guild of America, they're on strike. The actors are probably going to go on strike soon. It was just announced yesterday that apparently the executives of these companies are just trying to wait out for as long as they can until the writers start to like lose their apartments and lose their homes. And so they have no choice but to just take whatever is given to them. And so with all that in my mind, as Lena is arguing for, you can't just put someone else's voice in there and take credit for my performance. I was kind of like, you know what, Lena? Good for you.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I said.
They're
Get
trying
yours.
they're
Fight for
trying
what
to-
you deserve.
Yeah.
Even in the beginning of the movie, how we see how their relationship is a PR relationship.
Yes.
It's like so much of this movie is so relevant today. And honestly, what just I think is just the overall thread throughout Hollywood and being in the film industry, the theater industry, entertainment industry. It holds up.
Yeah.
It really does.
I
It
think
holds
it holds up. Yeah. I
The
think
common
it's,
themes do hold up.
yes. And again, it's not the type of movie that you don't want to revisit because it's so pessimistic. It's so negative.
No.
It's showing you truths of the way things were, the way things are. It's definitely paralleling the time in 1952 as movies are getting ready to make another big jump. There's a little sequence right after they talk about recording sound where they're showcasing like different films. That's when they're doing like the Nutcracker dance thing. You get like Bing Crosby's voice in there. It's strange. That's another thing where I was like, I don't get this. But during this sequence where they're highlighting what a change is coming to Hollywood, Gene Kelly is also using green screen. And so it's showing like, hey, this was a big change, but also at the same time, look at what we can do here in 1952. It's the only green screen use in the movie, but it's an interesting pairing of like the past and the present and like, hey, look, this stuff isn't so irrelevant. Here we are now, early 50s leading into the 60s, where film especially in America, it's about to completely change from everything that it was. There's a shot towards the end. Lena is not having it anymore. She says, I'm going to go make this speech. The crowd asks her to sing because her voice is so crazy. Can you imagine watching this movie and like, this is your voice?
And
you're watching
and
it,
you're,
like,
you
oh.
know it, but you're also not really aware of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Why are they laughing at her?
I don't get it.
Yeah. But there's an amazing shot. It might be my favorite shot in the movie that doesn't involve dancing, where the curtain is still down and you see Kathy in the background with her microphone, and then you see Lena in the front with her microphone. It's really beautiful. Like, it looks great. It looks really good. We hover there for like a few seconds, long enough for you to kind of like take in, like the meaning of that whole thing. Like the people behind the scenes, the people behind the curtain who are like actually doing the thing. And then you have this forward facing personality that isn't really accomplishing much. It says a lot about movie making, everything that you just said. You know what I mean? It's very cool. And it feels like in a movie, Singing in the Rain, I feel comfortable saying that this is a crowd pleaser movie. This is a popcorn movie. That shot to me feels like the most subversive, possibly the most angry shot in the movie. And it just feels very like it really.
What do you mean? Wait.
Yeah.
Pause.
Sure.
What do you mean by angry shot?
Well, just everything that I just said about what a statement that shot is saying to people about who is really doing the work.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Getting none of the applause, getting none of the awards, but it's this person behind
Right. Okay.
the curtain that's making everything possible. And it really like touched me in an emotional way that I like didn't expect.
Did you cry?
No, it wasn't like a crying kind of emotion. It was just like a very like full I don't know. I love that shot. I love that image.
Wow.
Yeah.
It struck a chord.
Like, I don't want to stop that woman.
Right.
It's like Lena's like, if you say anything, I'll sue. And so they're like, all right, hey, let's just say everything in front of a crowd of people. What can she do?
And then that's it.
And then, but it's great.
It is great.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I'm just curious, did you ever want to tap dance?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you remember Savion Glover would go on
Yeah, of
Sesame
course.
Street?
Yeah.
I watched that and I was just like, I have to do this.
So how did you do it?
You know, you just kind of like, tick, 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 tick.
Oh, I took a pair of my sneakers and I covered the bottoms with thumbtacks. And then I would tap dance on my parents' kitchen floor. And I will
Did it
tell you,
sound?
oh yeah, yeah, but here's the thing. Depending on where the thumbtack is, your foot gets stabbed. And also, I was scratching up the tile floor. So my parents were not happy about it. But then my sister actually took tap dance.
When your
I
parents
never
came
did.
in, you didn't say, gotta dance.
I was just like, and they were my Nikes. So they were like my Nikes with thumbtacks. Like I covered the whole bottom with thumbtacks. And I would just be like on the kitchen floor.
I can
Like,
just
let me
see.
get my tap shoes. I saved them for years. These are my tap shoes.
Wow. I can see like your parents just like walking in, like looking through the mail, and Michelle's like in the kitchen, like very seriously.
I was very serious. Yeah. And they were like, you're scratching up the floor. I was like, they're just my tap shoes. I thought I was genius though when I did that. I was like, this is such a good idea.
That is pretty smart. No, I just pretended.
That's a better way to do it, I think.
So this movie's made for $2.5 million. Mm-hmm. Goes on to make $7.2 million. A lot of what I read said that Gene Kelly's previous film, An American in Paris, was like a much bigger success than Singing in the Rain. American in Paris was made for $2.7 million with a $7 million box office. So it cost more and it made less. So I don't know if it was just like in terms of awards, Singing in the Rain wasn't recognized, but it did very close to the same amount of money that the previous film made. So I looked up some like contemporary reviews of the movie because everything nowadays is just glowing. Like, this is the greatest movie ever. So I wanted to see what people were saying back then. For the most part, it was all positive, you know?
Good. It should be.
Singing in the Rain has a 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
None of the critics who've reviewed it don't like it. It's got a 4.3 on Letterboxd, very high. Metacritic 99. I think this is like the highest rated movie across the board that we've done so far.
Wow.
It's hard to say if this is technically in the Criterion Collection. It was when they were doing laser discs. Now, Singing in the Rain is not available like with a spine number in their numbered series. This is in the National Registry. This was one of the first 25 films when they decided to start the National Registry of Films. This was in the first group to be inducted. Speaking of everybody loving this movie, we asked some friends on Twitter what they thought. And first off, we heard from Zach. Zach
we are
is back.
obsessed with Zach because we don't really know Zach.
Zach is a mystery to us, yeah.
Okay,
Zach
so the
says,
yeah, you're going to fill the people in about what if people are just tuning in and they want to know who Zach is?
listen to all of our previous episodes.
Oh, all right. Sorry, guys.
What do you mean, sorry? They'll have a good time. They're good.
I guess.
Oh, my God. Zach says, one of the greatest movies ever. I don't have much new to say on it. Gene Kelly was the... And then he puts in a word here that I'm not going to read live on air.
It's like Mad Libs.
Stanley Donen is an unsung hero. There was that Joseph Gordon-Levitt Saturday Night Live opening that was so weird and proves Donald O'Connor was a BA. But nothing interesting, just a feel-good, sick day movie.
Do you think Zach is being held captive?
By Newman.
And Newman is like, you have to give remarks, Zach.
I wonder...
Like, where does Zach live? Like, the fact that Newman again sent in Zach's remarks, I'm like, Zach, who are you?
Are we sure that Zach isn't like Newman? You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
Like an alter
a double
ego?
identity?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. We also got a voicemail from Newman. We'll listen to that now.
My mind is blown.
Hi, movie friends. This is Newman calling in from the Movies for Days podcast. Oh my goodness. Singin' in the Rain? Holy hell. I grew up as a big theater kid, so we did a lot of stage musicals growing up, watched a lot of musicals, and the movie version was never as good. And here, lo and behold, my mom showed me what might have been my very first movie musical that I think works best as a film. I'm sure there's a stage version of this. I forgot to look that up. It was one of those experiences where a movie did something I didn't know a movie could do. Certainly not a musical. Make 'em Laugh from Donald O'Connor. I watched that and I was losing my mind laughing. It was like live action Looney Tunes. The things this guy was able to do with his body through dance, flipping off walls, the pantomiming with the mannequin doll that it was all just off the wall, hysterical. The huge dance numbers, I hadn't really seen Oklahoma at this point, so this was like one of the first times I saw so much being told through dance, from a story and tone standpoint, and the skill level of Gene Kelly and Sid Charisse, to say nothing of Debbie Reynolds. Jesus God almighty. This movie is sharp, this movie is funny, it's inventive, it's paced within an inch of its life. Everyone in it is so endearing. I could watch this movie 100 times and never get tired of it. The music is all so toe-tap and memorable. And our hero started out as a stuntman. Are you fucking kidding? Sign me up. Yeah, that's all I got. You guys are great. Take her easy, keep rocking and rolling, and keep singing in the rain.
Thank you, Newman. Not Zach.
Thank you,
or maybe Zach.
Newman. Now we can really say it like Jerry would.
Right.
Newman.
Don at Casablanca Don says, I saw it about 10 years ago for its 60th anniversary, and it holds up. I would love to see this in a theater.
Aw, that'd be
You know what I
special.
mean?
I would like to see this on the stage.
The fact that Babylon attempts to live in its aura tells you that it still holds up, too. And I agree. Krista. Yeah.
Krista, who we haven't heard from in
Krista.
years.
At CronkleCon.
CronkleCon.
She said, obsessed, can't wait. She also sent a picture of her singing in the rain, and I had put out a request for people to send us more pictures of them singing in the rain.
Did we
and I
get
got
more?
Nothing. So I'm bummed out, folks.
Wow, maybe you'll send it this week, movie friend.
Alex, at Alex172005 _ seems like a date.
Sure does. 17th of 2005.
Yeah, Alex is cool. He's a big musical guy.
Hey, Alex.
He says, I love, in capital letters, this movie. It's in my top 10 all time. It's impossible for me to watch this movie and not be in a good mood after. The cast is perfect, with Gene Kelly at his best. The choreography, the song choices, the story, all perfect. I can go on and on about this movie. I've always found the era of the transition from silence to talkies intriguing. It has made for some very interesting films. The Artist, Sunset Boulevard, etc. I liked the lighthearted approach they took in Singing in the Rain. And again, that's what I've been saying this whole time. I love you, Alex. Thank you.
You love Alex? That's cute.
Of course.
Oh, cool.
He says, oh, and it definitely holds up. My daughters, 7 and 2, both love it. And then he had sent in a picture of one of his kids watching the movie.
So cute. Thank you, Alex.
Jamila, at Jamila Brownie.
Jamila.
Our episode with Jamila on 2 Days in Paris is going up on our Patreon in tomorrow. Patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast to get access to 3 additional shows. So much content. It's the best deal on the internet. Like, I can't. It's insane. Anyway.
Can't say even more about it.
We're talking with Jamila tomorrow.
2 Days in Paris.
Actually, when this comes out, it will be in the past. But anyway. She says, I first saw it in my middle school orchestra class, and I was like, it's fine. Then I watched it years later when my film knowledge had increased significantly, and it's kind of hard to not see what an incredible love letter it is to cinema and film history. It's perfection.
I agree,
Same.
Jamila. Yep.
Like, same exact story that I had. Amanda, at Beatrix Kiddo. Amanda follows us on Twitter. She has one of my favorite profile pictures ever. It's her with this creature from the David Cronenberg film Naked Lunch, which is one of the strangest movies ever made. It's so cool. She said, Singing in the Rain is literally my phone ringtone. Though, to be entirely truthful, it's because I love A Clockwork Orange. And we didn't mention yet, but it's possible that Singing in the Rain is equally as famous for its inclusion in the film A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. I'm like slowly registering that thought.
Yeah.
Not that I'm negating what you're saying, but my
I
brain
think
is like, we're at work.
Right.
Right.
Is that what your brain says when it's doing stuff? We're at work.
It's like the grind. We have like little people and we're like,
Right.
get the thought, compute.
Right.
Yeah, Clockwork Orange. I've watched it way too many times and had to do a report on it in college. With Matt Neglia.
Yeah. Shout out to Matt Neglia.
Yeah. Clockwork Orange. Anyway.
Betsy, at Gorham_Betsy. She says, I nearly made it to high school before seeing this and became immediately obsessed. I watched it a second time right away and several times the following weeks. The first time Lena speaks, hysterical. The musical numbers, sensational. Donald O'Connor, my new boyfriend, classic.
I agree.
I think he's
Cosmo over
the best part of this movie.
everyone.
And that's
Yeah.
not to say anything bad about everybody else. Everybody else is
No.
great. But I really just wanted this movie to be about Cosmo. But maybe he's better just in small doses. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of like the ultimate like little sidekick guy.
Right. He's like the Robin.
Yeah. Has Katie at
Has Katie.
the Has Katie.
The Has Katie.
Yes.
Excuse me. The.
One of my absolute favorites for literally as long as I can remember. At age 4, I remember saying my favorite movie changed every day between this and The Bandwagon. I firmly believe that a lot of children will love it, but many don't see it until adulthood, if ever.
Mm-hmm.
Jean
on the scene?
at Jean Marie Vargas, my wife,
Wow.
she said, I loved this movie growing up, and I think it still holds up today. After watching it recently, I wish Kathy and Cosmo got together. I think Debbie Reynolds and Donald O'Connor had some chemistry. Also love Make 'em Laugh and the lawn dance sequence with Sid Charisse.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I would like some Kathy and Cosmo to get together.
In the original idea for the movie, Cosmo and Lena end up together.
I would have loved that too.
I don't know. That's
You know what?
Seems
I'd
like-
be happy if Dawn was solo, and that's the hot tea.
Melissa at Melissa Dags.
Ooh, not Dabs.
Nope, not Dabs.
No,
Her
Dabs.
last name is D'Agostino.
Nice.
And I just want to say, I love when people have like punctuation in their name.
I know, right? So cool.
Like any kind of like, you got an apostrophe, a hyphen,
dash.
hyphen.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it so much. She says, in my top 5, saw it as a kid, wore the VHS out. To me, it's perfection.
Cute.
And when she said that, I was like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. But I thought, kids nowadays won't know what wearing something. Everything is just streamed.
I know, they have no idea. the
Like you and
struggle.
like, do you remember having like a favorite CD, but you had to be careful because you could scratch it if you listened to it and put it in your Walkman and carried it around with you too much?
Yes. Yeah, I blew out my Super Nintendo system
That's
because I
crazy.
played it too much.
That's insane.
And then I wouldn't share it, so my mom wouldn't get me a new one.
Oh, poor Sam.
Yeah, poor Sam.
So those are some people that we do know on the internet. Now we're going to go to a segment of the show, and we're going to hear from some people that we don't know. You know, I say the same thing every single week, and I say it in the exact same way. I should just pre-record this part, and it would
You
save so much
should.
time.
You should.
Except for this episode where I'm kind of,
Yeah.
you know, breaking the fourth wall a little bit.
Ooh.
Anyway, it's a segment of the show we call half star, 3-star, 5-star. It's 7 seconds, I found. All right, so these are reviews from letterboxd.com. We start out with a half-star review, which is the lowest rating that you can give a movie. And we go all the way up to a 5-star review, which is the highest rating that you can give a movie. And the half-star review, which I will read. Should I do Lena one more time?
In a British. Do Lena in a British way.
I don't know if I can do that.
I believe in you, so take that and put it in your pocket.
Yeah.
Oh, I won't believe it. Are you serious?
Oh, okay. I think I can manage it.
You sound like a Muppet.
Well, Lena sounds like a Muppet.
I know.
Oi! I'm about 40 minutes in as I'm writing this, and I'm heavily considering shutting this off. It's unjustifiably overblown, annoying, and I can't stand any of the characters. Not to mention that it's aged like milk. Every single song makes me want to cry. It's so mid. About an hour, 20 minutes in, it's just as bad. I can't finish this. Half star.
You sounded like Miss Piggy.
Dude, that was hard to do.
You did a good job. But it rotted or aged like milk? Is that what?
It aged like milk. Yeah. So they started writing this about 40 minutes in, and they said, I'm going to turn it off. And then they get to an hour and 20 minutes and decide that they can't finish. So, I mean, I don't know. Hey, look.
And all the songs are bad. Maybe it was opposite day for them.
Perhaps. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Fever dream. If you want to see a classic film that has at least 3 separate tap dance sequences, then this is the movie for you. All in all, the plot was pretty easy to understand, the acting was fun, and it actually made me unironically laugh on several occasions. It was definitely strange and a bit outdated at times, but overall enjoyable to watch. 3 stars.
Very good. My 3-star. You get a gold star. Sticker.
Just 1, not 3?
Nope.
All right. So it's pretty, it's
Fair.
it's fair, yeah. All right, 5 stars. When I was a little kid, I saw my brother watching this in his room, and after watching about half of it peeking in from the doorway, I asked if I could watch it with him. I never knew that a movie could be like this, could look like this, could feel like this. Such a monumental film in my life. I only knew Debbie Reynolds from Halloween Town up until that point, LOL, so seeing her in this role really blew my mind. Triple threats all around in this cast. All that to say, this is my comfort movie. They really don't do them like this anymore. 5
I agree to that.
There was a line when Kathy is talking to Don, and he's like, have you seen my pictures? And she's like, I think I saw one once. He's like, one once? And she says, yeah, movies, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. And I wrote down in my notes, that's Michelle.
I looked at Aunt and I said, oh my God, it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she was pretending. Because
I know. Right.
So I picked that review specifically to say it does make an impact on people when you include them in good experiences. Mm-hmm. And so if you have kids or if you're a teacher, Jamila said the first time she saw this was in school. Like, what's up with that? Felicia, first time she saw this was in film school. Something I say a lot is curation is preservation, right? We know what certain films are because they're included in the Criterion Collection. We know what certain films are because they're a staple on a streaming service. You know what I mean? When we curate things, it helps to preserve them in people's minds. And so I love this review because it's inspiring to me to be like, yeah, helping people connect to films that they didn't know existed and to help them understand what films can be like is like such a pleasure and such a joy. So if you're listening to this, show people this movie and show people other movies that are great.
Yeah. That's why I love The Great Movie Ride, because it took you behind the scenes. It was so good, Seth, especially the Casablanca part, which they apparently, it was rumored that they used the same plane from the movie.
I am so
Also,
proud.
John Wayne's belt buckle was the actual belt buckle in the movie ride that he wore in the movie. And then someone stole it. I was a movie guy kid, Seth.
You were. Tap
I
dancing,
really was.
tapping away. Chanting Moses supposes to yourself. You didn't even know
What a
it.
great movie ride.
I am so proud of you that you were able to bring that back around to button this whole thing up. That was very impressive.
Well, it's just how I truly feel. That
Yeah.
was not done on purpose or anything.
Got it. Okay, so I don't know why I clap, because I always have to edit those out because no one knows what it is.
Oh.
Well, now you'll know what it is because I said I just clapped. Maybe that's what I need to start doing. I just need to start inserting, like, Seth clapped. Anyway, we talked about this movie. We heard what other people think. What do you think? What do you rate in this movie? Is this a schmovie, a movie, a film? Are you recommending it? Let's hear it.
Yeah. It's a film for me. I'm 100% recommending it. I would hope that everybody, if you haven't seen it, will watch it because you will have a grand old time. I sent you that video of Aunt dancing around our living room.
Yes.
And I'm rating it 4.5 stars.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Very good.
And again, it just made me real nostalgic for a better time.
Different time. I don't know about better.
Well, when I was on the Great Movie Ride.
Oh,
I
okay.
think
Not
that was a better-
1952. Oh, got it.
I
Okay.
never experienced 1952, Seth, so
Right.
yeah. You?
I think that young Seth was wrong. And if you don't like musicals, if you don't like the visuals, you can't deny, with a straight face and an honest heart, you cannot deny at least the physicality of the performances. You know what I'm
Agreed.
saying?
Yeah.
And for that, for the way that the camera, I didn't really get into, because I'm not like a really big expert. I watched a bunch of different dance sequences made prior to Singing in the Rain, because one of the comments that I heard was Singing in the Rain helped move how musicals were filmed forward. Prior to this, a lot of musicals, the camera would be pretty much static so that you could see what the people were doing, right? Singing in the Rain, the camera is moving, it's swirling. We didn't talk about the sequence with Don and Kathy backstage where he's like turning on the lights and the smoke.
Oh my
Beautiful
gosh.
sequence, right?
Yeah.
The camera in that is great. The camera in the Broadway Melody sequel, it's all great. I think that you can't deny those things. You can say I don't like the other parts of it. It's silly to try to put this movie down, in my opinion. I think that this is a film, and I think that it's an important film for its discussion on the history of film with such a charming, silly face so that it can interest people into the history of film, right, and the reality of filmmaking. I am also rating this movie 4.5.
What?
Yeah, and I think it's great. I wouldn't say that this would enter like my top list of favorite movies, but it's close. And as far as musicals go, it really is one of the gold standards, I think, for how to make a movie engaging when
It's
there's
the bee's
basically no
knees.
story.
Right, but like you don't need the story. There is a story, but
No, there
you're
is.
not so
And but that's
fixated
what I'm
on
saying.
it, though.
Right, but that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like when you make a jukebox musical, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
The story is there. It's great, but everything else just works really well. All right, it's time. Friend request month to pick next.
I love Friend Request Month. I have
Yeah,
to
it's
be
pretty
honest
great.
with you.
Yeah.
And I love that people are sending in their voice notes of why they chose this movie and what it means to them.
Yeah.
It's really adding that friend element that we love here at Movie Friends.
I know. Well, and that's why, we read a lot of the reviews and we read the comments. We spend time on emails. That's what we've been trying to foster.
I mean, that's
here.
the whole
It's like-
reason I'm here. I'm not here to watch movies.
Right. No, yeah.
Like, if nobody was writing in, I'd be like, this effing sucks.
Right. No, we've
Just
said it from the beginning.
Every week.
You're the Friends part of Movie Friends, and I'm more the movie part of Movie Friends.
I guess.
Isn't that what you just said?
Maybe. Okay.
Okay.
Pick our next movie.
Next movie, randomly selected from the cup.
Of ketchup. Catsup. Do you say catsup or ketchup?
No, heck no.
Right?
Yeah.
You're like, no, I
catsup.
actually say catsup.
Yeah. Next film.
Oh my God! I'm so excited. I love this movie so much.
We will be talking next week from 1985, directed by Robert Zemeckis, Back to the Future. This was submitted by Matt.
Matt Damon! Woo! Thanks, Matt.
It's 116 minutes. It's currently streaming on Freevee, which is IMDb's free streaming service.
No, I'm going to rent it, but okay. Actually, I own it.
And yeah, it's one of Michelle's favorite movies, right?
Yeah. I'm so excited.
All right, I'm excited too.
Love Back to the Future. I've done so much reading on Back to the Future. I read the book where they interview Zemeckis, and oh my gosh, I love Back to the Future. I did the set tour at Universal.
This might be a more Michelle-heavy episode next week.
It won't be, guys, because Seth has all the words and I have two words to say.
Well, I don't know that we see eye to eye on this movie.
Well, I'm not doing research for it, like to prepare for it. I'll just bring my Michelle enthusiasm. Come on, Back to the Future is so fun.
I'm just
And we're
kidding.
going to watch it together, right?
Probably, yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, thank you.
I'm excited. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hey, if you're excited, we'd love it if you'd give us a review, give us a rating. Also, subscribe, give us a follow, Twitter, Instagram, Movie Friends Podcast, youtube.com/Movie Friends Podcast. And you can support the show, patreon.com/Movie Friends. It's $5 a month. You get access to 3 additional shows. So far, we're working on some new stuff, which is pretty exciting.
Man, oh man, am I excited.
You also get access to our patron-only Discord. A lot of cat talk happening in there these days, which is okay with me.
It's so good, right?
Yeah.
Are you coming around? You're like, these are pretty cute cats.
I don't know
You
about
don't have to touch them. You're just seeing your friends sharing cute cat pics.
Sure. Or you can send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. You can ask us about anything. Tell us what you thought about Singing in the Rain. Tell us what you think about Back to the Future before we record that episode. It puts a smile on Michelle's face.
Ding.
All right. Well, thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks, Felicia, Cinnamon Noodle.
Yeah, this was great.
This was great.
All right. Until next week when we're talking about Back to the Future. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks.